Hello and good afternoon. You're watching News on 2 with me, Muhammad Carlos. Now, financing for the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, took center stage at the United Nations as leaders met to discuss how to align and mobilize resources to rise to the challenge. Now, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says with adequate, predictable and sustainable funding, it is possible to deliver to the people or planet.
There is more than $200 trillion in private capital invested in global financial markets, often at negligible rates of return, some even negative rates of return. These funds can be channeled towards more productive sustainable investment projects, including by making use of innovative financing instruments. These are already making their mark, but need significant scaling up.
The Secretary General further called for raising ambition for development finance, climate finance and finance that will enable markets to grow, businesses to thrive and people to live in dignity. Despite progress since the 2015 adoption of the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, which aimed to forge an enhanced global partnership, growing uncertainties and risks threaten development progress and sustainable finance prospects. The high-level dialogue was aimed to renew global commitment to financing at the highest political level. It served as a UN call for collective action to energize growth and tackle challenges in the global economy, encourage public and private investment to align with the 2030 agenda and promote new and innovative initiatives that target gaps in financing sustainable development. Well, meanwhile, Malaysia is seeking to strike a balance between achieving Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, and addressing the needs of the rakyat. In this regard, Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad says new strategies need to be adopted to attain targets of sustainable development while taking care of the rakyat's well-being. Elaborating further, Tun Dr. Mahathir pointed out that the government was keeping a close eye on matters such as the environment and poverty eradication.
The state of the economy is not static. Over time, the economy grows, and what was regarded as above the poverty line becomes below the poverty line after a period of years have passed. That is because the economy grows. And in a bigger economy where more people are able to earn more, if we use the old poverty line, we will find that everybody is now above the poverty line, and therefore we have eradicated poverty. But in actual fact, because of high cost of living and other factors, although we have reached above the poverty line as determined at the beginning, now the poverty level is actually much higher.
The Premier said this when addressing the SDG Summit Leaders Dialogue on the 2020-2030 vision in New York, USA. On the environment, Dr. Mahathir noted that as Malaysia's population grew, the government had to spend more money to treat the waste that they produced. Unfortunately, he said certain countries had opted to send some of their waste to Malaysia. He further expressed hope that countries would look after their own waste rather than exporting them to other countries. On a lighter note, as the oldest leader in the world at 94, Tun Dr. Mahathir is definitely an inspiration, not just to Malaysians, but younger people all over the world. And it's not surprising when many wonder the health tips the Premier follow to stay healthy. Let's take a look and listen.
I have a question. Any tips for the rest of us on how to get to the age of 94 and be... what do? Do you eat yogurt or how do you do this?
Well, in the first place, I don't know. I've been spared, but I do practice certain things which I think contribute to being a little bit more healthy than others. One thing I advise people is not to eat too much. Yeah. Eat to live and not live to eat. And see, when you see people At the age of 40, bulging around there, that's the time to stop eating too much. I follow my mother's advice. When the food tastes nice, stop eating. That's very...
Okay, yeah.
The reason is very simple. When I was studying medicine, I realized it was very sensible, because when the food tastes nice, you tend to eat more. And as for your brain, the brain is like the muscle. You don't use your brain, it shrinks.
Yeah.
So be active, and I think you may survive to 94.
Okay.
Recently, Tun Dr. Mahathir topped the list as Malaysia's most admired man, according to YouGov's annual study of which public figures people look up to. The results were based on 1,075 Malaysians surveyed by the British market research firm. YouGov is an international internet-based market research and data analytics firm based in United Kingdom with operations in Europe, North America, West Asia and Asia Pacific. A parliamentary select committee will be set up to curb social media abuse. Communications and Multimedia Minister Gobind Singh Dio says it was one of the proposals that have been put forward, and the ministry is considering the establishment of the committee.
So I'm still open to suggestions, but one of the suggestions put forward to me is to suggest to the government that a select committee be set up. So I am considering that as well. I will. I hope to do it soon, but not. If at all, I can say that we will look at setting it up this quarter. That means at this session of Parliament, if at all.
Okay.
I am going to, I mean, of course, I hope that it can be done if this suggestion is accepted, but let's see what happens.
The minister said this after attending the Towards Media Freedom and Combating Fake News dialogue session organized by the Asian Strategy and Leadership Institute, ASLI, in Subang Jaya, Selangor. Gobind said he would ensure all voices were heard before a decision was taken. However, he did not elaborate on the terms and reference of the committee. When asked whether the proposed Parliamentary Select Committee would involve the setting up of an independent social media commission, Gobind said it is under consideration. He said the objective of the commission is to provide a hint of independence in the decision-making on issues related to social media without any direct interference or control from any party, including the government. However, the minister added the structure of the commission has not been decided yet. Education Minister Dr. Mazli Malik says all fields related to technical and vocational education and training, TVET, will be placed under the National TVET Education Coordinating Board once established. Well, Dr. Mazli also said the establishment of the body would be finalized after several studies being conducted by the TVET Empowerment Cabinet Committee were completed. Speaking to the media after opening an industry dialogue on TVET empowerment in Putrajaya, the Education Minister said convincing more industry players to cooperate with the government remains one of the main challenges that the field faces.
Kementerian Pendidikan berhasrat untuk memupuk hubungan rapat dengan pakar industri, bekerjasama dengan lebih erat sebagai satu pasukan, sebagai satu keluarga, dan juga melibatkan secara komprehensif, secara holistik pihak industri untuk membangunkan TVET demi kemajuan negara.
TVET is a training program that provides knowledge and skills for employment, utilizing formal and informal learning. Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir Mohamad had previously said the government was placing priority on TVET to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. The family of Major Muhammad Zaheer Ibrahims, 36, is planning to request for an inquest into the cause of his death during a demonstration exercise at the Lokhawi Army camp in Sabah on 4th September. While expressing this wish, his father and veteran actor comedian A.R. Badol said an inquest would give all family members an understanding of the true chronology of events concerning the death. Badul said the family is hoping for an inquest similar to that conducted for deceased fireman Muhammad Qasim, 24, who died on 17 September after sustaining critical injuries on 27th November when he and his team members from the Subang Jaya fire station responded to an emergency call concerning a riot that was taking place at the Seafield Sri Bahamariman Temple. The Malaysian Army yesterday confirmed that Major Muhammad Zaheer's death was accidental, having occurred during training, and an Army investigating board had classified it as an isolated incident. Major Muhammad Zaheer, who was reported to have died at 9:20 a.m. at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Kota Kinabalu, was attached to the commando unit based at the Sungai Udang Army Camp in Malacca. He is survived by a widow and 5 children aged between 5 months and 9. The Georgetown Sessions Court in Pulau Pinang yesterday allowed the prosecution's application to transfer the case of an assistant director at the Pulau Pinang National Registration Department (NRD) and 5 others on charges under Section 26E of the Anti-Trafficking in Persons and Anti-Smuggling of Migrants, or known as ATIPSAM, Act 2007, also it's Act 670, to the High Court. Now, the charges are in connection with the issuance of sale of illegal My Cards to foreigners. The case came up for hearing before judges Nur Salha, Dato Hamzah and Mazdi Abdul Hamid in 2 different session courts, and both judges allowed the case to be transferred to the High Court after listening to arguments from both the prosecution and defense teams. Last week, the defense team objected to the Deputy Public Prosecutor's proposal to move the case to the High Court. The court then fixed yesterday to hear arguments from both sides. On 12 September, Assistant Director Muhammad Faizul Arifin and Lo Chan Cheong, 34, Chen Guan Chai, 36, Yap Cheng Hua, 43, and Muhammad Faisal Tan Abdullah, 66, were charged with 2 main offences under Section 26E of the ATIPSAM Act, while businessman Dato Lai Chinhua, 56, was accused of committing 3 offences under the same section. All the charges are under Section 26E of the ATIPSAM Act, which carries a minimum jail term of 7 years and not exceeding 15 years and a fine of not less than 50,000 ringgit or both upon conviction. Well, after 41 hours, an overturned lorry carrying more than 20,000 litres of acetone in Kampung Parit Mentara 3, Bagan Serai in Perak was finally lifted and removed from the village. And Perak Fire and Rescue Department Operation Assistant Director Muhammad Yunus Abu said the tanker was believed to have entered the wrong side of the road before it skidded and overturned into a canal at 5 a.m. on Wednesday. In a statement released today, Yunus said 2 cranes were used to lift the tanker back on its wheels at 10:30 p.m. last night before the vehicle was towed out of the village. He said the operation was stopped at 11:30 p.m. A total of 35 firefighters, including personnel from the Hazmat unit, were involved in the operation, and 4 families living within 100 meters of the site were asked to evacuate their homes to avoid any risk. Acetone is a colorless chemical, volatile and highly flammable, and is often used as a solvent in paint and nail polish. The Fire and Rescue Department yesterday confirmed that no hazardous materials were found in the village following the incident. We're still in the Silver State. Well, a Nepalese man was killed after falling into a flaw cooling machine at a factory in the Tasa industrial area in Ipoh, Perak last night. Ipoh Fire and Rescue Operations Chief Muhammad Mahir Matsaad said a distress call was received at 8:47 p.m. and firemen took about 10 minutes to remove the 37-year-old victim's body from the machine. He also said around 11 firemen from the Ipoh Fire and Rescue Station, including the Emergency Medical Response Service EMRS unit, were rushed to the scene upon receiving the call. And the Fire and Rescue Operations Chief added that the victim's body had been handed over to the police for further action. And the news continues. Well, the federal government is on track to meet its deficit target of 3.4% of gross domestic product, or GDP, for this year, and will raise 52 billion ringgit worth of net direct debt for development expenditure purposes. Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng says the 52 billion ringgit worth of net direct debt for this fiscal year was planned in the 2019 budget table last year and is lower than the 3.7% of GDP fiscal deficit or 53 billion ringgit recorded in the year 2018. Commenting further in a statement issued yesterday, Lim also refuted allegations that the net direct debt raised to date of 58 billion ringgit as at 26 September has already exceeded the budgeted 52 billion ringgit for the full year. Well, he said the allegations were baseless and false as the 58 billion ringgit figure failed to take into consideration two key factors. First and foremost, he said the government issues and redeem its debt and securities regularly each year based on its yearly debt issuance and redemption schedule. Secondly, he said issuance and redemption of debt necessarily fluctuates throughout the year in order to regularize the cash flow of the government. The minister also said for the whole year, the government plans to raise 135.7 billion ringgit worth of gross direct debt, while redeeming 83.3 billion ringgit in return. According to the schedule, he said 102.2 billion ringgit gross direct debt has been issued during the January-August period, while 33.5 billion ringgit will be issued in the September-December period. He said 38.8 billion ringgit has been redeemed in the January-August period, and another 44.5 billion ringgit will be redeemed in the September-December period this year. The Rakyat can expect more perks and benefits when Budget 2020 is tabled in Parliament this 11th October. Deputy Communications and Multimedia Minister Edin Chazli Sith says the Pakatan Harapan PH government, during its first year of administering the country, has focused on prudent management to deal with the dumping of national debts left by the previous administration.
Dan kita berharap pada tahun yang kedua ini lebih banyak perkara yang saya percaya lebih mengutamakan kebajikan rakyat akan diteruskan oleh Kerajaan Pakatan Harapan. Walaupun kita dah teruskan dalam tempoh setahun ini, tetapi masih ada kekangan-kekangan di atas faktur hutang yang terlampau banyak. Saya percaya perkara-perkara tersebut sebahagian daripada ini telah diselesaikan dan kita berharap pada tahun yang akan datang ini lebih banyak aspek-aspek yang mengutamakan kebajikan dan kepentingan rakyat khususnya yang tinggal di luar bandar.
The minister said this after closing the Negeri Sembilan state-level public speaking programs for schools titled Kalam Jama'i and Kalam Syabi in Kuala Pilah. When asked on the proposals to be made by the ministry for the upcoming budget, Edin said it was too early for him to comment. Deputy Women, Family and Community Development Minister Hannah Yeo says Tenaga Nasional Berhad (TNB) will be giving a 20% discount in the electricity bill of nurseries registered with the Welfare Department. While she said the initiative starting from 1st November this year to 31st December 2020 will be for nurseries which are charged under commercial tariff and are operating in Peninsular Malaysia and have registered with the Welfare Department. Yeo said the initiative was the result of consultations and the advocacy of her ministry and the Energy, Science, Technology, Environment and Climate Change Ministry, MESEC, and TNB to reduce the cost of nursery operations, as well as to expand nurseries registration and the Welfare Department for the purpose of monitoring the welfare and safety of children.
Di samping itu, kerajaan juga sedang meneliti untuk mengadakan perbincangan dengan pihak Sarawak Energy Berhad (SEB) dan Sabah Electricity Sendirian Berhad (SESB) agar pemberian diskaun ini akan turut sama dinikmati oleh pengusaha dan pemilik taska di Sarawak dan Sabah.
The Deputy Minister said this at a press conference held in conjunction with a nursery registration promotion with the Welfare Department, which was also attended by Energy, Science, Technology, Environment and Climate Change Minister Yobi Yin in Putrajaya. She further noted that there are 4,744 nurseries registered with the Welfare Department as at August this year, and from the total, 3,398 are in the peninsula. News edition of News on 2. In our top story, leaders discuss financing for the Sustainable Development Goals. We'll be back at 7 this evening with more updates. Till then, I'm Muhammad Carlos. Thanks for watching.